Hey everyone, welcome back to the Crossbow Hunting Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Bashaw. It's good to be back. Hope everyone's doing well. This week, we got something pretty interesting for you. We're going to be talking about my Mount Rushmore. I'm sure this is going to come with some great controversy, but no apologies, right? So this is kind of an episode I've been wanting to do for a little while. I want to talk about the top 4. And absolutely, we'll be talking about what I believe is the top 4 crossbow companies, but a few other subjects as well, including hunters, states to hunt, camo, and tree stands as well. Now keep in mind, this is just personal opinion. I most definitely haven't tried everything out there, but this is just my thoughts and I'd like to share them with you. And none of this was considered by financial data such as what crossbow companies are making the most sales and things like that. It's all personal opinion. Now, of course, many of you probably have the same thought as I do when you're thinking about those influential hunters. And for the purpose of this podcast, I'm not going to be talking specifically about crossbow hunters. I just mean hunters in general and who I believe the top 4 are. But that being said, for the most part, I'm assuming a lot of listeners are going to be thinking of one person in particular, that being Fred Bear. And I gotta agree with that. What Mr. Bear has done to the outdoor world is unparalleled. There's just no equal. So for purposes of the show, this episode, we're going to put Fred Bear on a mountain of his own. And so if you'd like to hear who the other 4 are, including all the other topics, stay tuned. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the show so far. I want to give a big thank you to all our listeners and followers, and to remind everybody that you can find our merchandise store through our Instagram page and our Facebook page. I'd also like to share, when it comes to the best hunting app on the market, go out and download the onX Hunt Map. You will not be disappointed. From finding new spots to go or feeling safe and secure, onX is simply the best and most definitely what we use at Crossbow Hunting Podcast. And if you've enjoyed our shows, please go to iTunes and subscribe or follow on Spotify. And last but not least, don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow on Instagram. And you can always reach us on crossbowhuntingpodcast@gmail.com. Hold on a minute, there's one more thing. For those of you like us that have those big whitetail dreams, I want to let you know if you're looking for something to hold your gear or a crossbow holder, you definitely got to go check out Big Whitetail Dreams. They got some awesome crossbow holders. You don't have to screw them into the tree, take seconds to set up and you're ready to go. No more holding your crossbow the whole time or your gear bag. Strap it on, ready to go. Check them out, Big Whitetail Dreams. I can tell you this much. It's the only thing touching my crossbow. Hey, what's that? A YouTube channel? Crossbow Hunting Podcast? Go check us out. And now, back to the show. Alright everybody, let's get into this. Let's jump right in with hunting states. Yeah, of course, you got to keep in mind that I'm hunting in 2 of the most difficult states in the country, Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Definitely in the top 10 of hardest to be successful in. But let's talk about what I think the big 4 are. My Mount Rushmore. Number 1. For whitetail hunting, Illinois. I'm sure I'm like many of you that grew up watching these hunting shows on TV, and you always remember hearing Illinois. All the shows, they were always in Illinois. Pike County. Tell me you haven't heard that word before, right? Now, I'm not going to break down the state too much, but Illinois is definitely in there. And another one, got to go with Iowa. Man, does Iowa have some big bucks. Wow. Of course, reality is there's big bucks in just about every state, but if you want to look at some monsters, check out Iowa. But as I was saying, I primarily hunt Massachusetts and New Hampshire, although I have hunted some other states and have had some great success. But like I said, this is just personal opinion and on that Mount Rushmore. I should also quickly add that there is no specific order. They're all in there. So far I got Illinois, Iowa, and this next state, well, they've been doing crossbow hunting for a long time. And man, they got some good bucks there too. None other than Ohio. Ohio seems to be one of those states that is non-resident friendly, which can be hard to find in places that have great big bucks. But Ohio, from what I've seen, they seem like the spot to go to. I don't know, I think this last spot may be difficult to pick. There's a lot of great places. Alberta, Missouri, Nebraska, Texas, Kansas. Reality is the last one on the list shouldn't really be that hard to figure out. When we want to talk about record bucks, what state produces the most? That being the state with the most Boone and Crockett whitetails, Wisconsin. I know there's some other great states out there, but that's it. That's my Mount Rushmore for places to whitetail hunt. Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, and Wisconsin. I don't know if I had to pick just one to go to. That'd be pretty tough. I'd like to hear your thoughts, so when you hear this, comment, let me know. And up next, we're going to be talking about broadheads. Who's on my Mount Rushmore of broadheads? And no, we're not going to be discussing what's better, fixed or mechanicals. I'll let you decide that on your own. Just going to be talking about who's my Mount Rushmore for broadheads. So in this case, number one right off the bat, we're going with the famous NAP, New Archery Products Thunderhead. Looking at their website, it says the Thunderhead is widely recognized as the finest fixed blade broadhead ever created. The sharpest blades, the best quality. More animals have been taken over the years with Thunderheads than any other broadhead. Now I can say right now that's a pretty bold statement to claim, but for those of you that know anything about these Thunderheads, it's probably very accurate. People have been slinging those for a long time, no doubt. Next on the list, probably something you guessed already, Muzzy. So Muzzy Broadheads initially opened in Marathon, Florida in 1984. After that, in the 1990s, they moved to Georgia, where it remained there until 2016 following a 2011 acquisition by Faradine Outdoors. Now Muzzy's another one of those broadheads that a lot of us got started using, either the Thunderheads or the Muzzies. Another great top broadhead that you can use. Wasn't the most expensive in the world to buy and came long before that broadhead craze that everybody's gone through. As with NAP, Muzzy, well, they've came out with a lot of new broadheads over the years and they're not going anywhere. So another broadhead on the list is the Rage. Wow, what can be said about the Rage that you haven't heard already? If you want to talk about penetration, massive blood loss, easy tracking, it's all about the Rage. Now Rage is another broadhead that's owned by Faradine. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. A lot of people may not be aware of that, but if you're going to make a couple acquisitions, those are some pretty good ones to choose from. Rage has been impressive since day one, and judging by hunters online, they got a pretty big following, and if someone uses a Rage broadhead, you won't have to ask, you'll know. And I don't think for one second that there's just that many pro staff, field staff out there. It's just the users. They're just happy with the results and they're not shy when it comes to advertising what product they were using. And I'd say last on the list of my Mount Rushmore for broadheads is those G5s. G5 Outdoors, including that Montec. Man, they've been making that for some years now and people still love them. They still buy them. I've shot the G5s for years too. In this case, I've actually used all four broadheads and probably spent more years with the Thunderheads, but the G5's probably my favorite though. Reality is I hadn't really had any bad experiences with any of them, so they're all good. All now have a wide variety of selection and these are top broadheads. You can't go wrong. The NAPs, the Muzzies, the Rage, and the G5s. Give them a try if you're out there looking for something new. Alright, next we're going to be talking about tree stands. Yeah, we could go a lot of different ways with that. We could be talking about climbers, fixed, ladder stands, you name it. Purposes of this episode, I'm just talking about tree stands in general. I know a lot of people are out there saddle hunting now. That's something I haven't got into yet. Not sure if I'm gonna. I don't think it's for me. But if we're gonna talk about tree stands, in my Mount Rushmore of tree stands, we gotta talk about one very specific. One you probably never heard of. I know there's been a lot of tree stand creators out there, and where they came from and where they are now, wow, absolutely amazing. But that leads me to my Mount Rushmore, where they were created. How did we get there? Well, the history as I know it, or what I've heard, they come from a very interesting story. As written in Outdoor Life by Bob McNally, a brief history on tree stands, how Japanese snipers helped invent the modern deer stand. In 1947, Andy Anders was standing precautiously in a giant live oak tree on Blackbeard Island, Georgia. It was the first public bow hunt for white-tailed deer on that famous barrier island surrounded by salt water just north of the town Brunswick. Anders was one of only 9 bow hunters participating, and he and his friends knew, as Native Americans did, that in order to effectively kill deer using traditional bows and cedar shaft arrows, they had to get in the treetops to hide and ambush whitetails. Anders, a Jacksonville, Florida fireman, found that going tough in the timber, rough bark, and uncomfortable, irregular-shaped, shaky limbs made climbing into and hunting from the oaks less than fun, and dangerous too. There had to be a better method than doing that like the Indians, he thought. There must be a way to construct a portable platform to bow hunt deer effectively in the timber. Thus began the Andy stand, maybe the first commercially made platform designed specifically for deer hunting from trees. Yet Anders is quick to point out that he didn't devise the original concept of the fixed position tree stands he made of tubular metal and plywood. I was in the Pacific Theater in World War II, and my job was as a counter-sniper rifleman. Anders told on a bow hunt to Blackbeard Island in 1977. As dozens of us archers were using his homemade stands to hunt deer, I remembered that Japanese snipers used small platforms to sit in the treetops, and they were made from native plants, mostly bamboo. They had half-round frame rim, just big enough to sit on, made from tough bamboo strips. Though they wove a tight, durable base on the rim from the vines and smaller bamboo strips. The frame was lashed to the tree with a vine strap, and the stand was supported by a Y-shaped bamboo post. Anders recalled that the fork of the Y attached to the stand base at the midpoints. The bottom of the Y was heavy bamboo cut in a sharp angle so it could be jammed into the tree bark, which supported the base that he was sitting on. Original Andy stand was exactly that design, except his frame and Y were made of tubular metal, and the stand base was made of 3/8 inch plywood instead of bamboo. And instead of vine to wrap around the tree, he used a heavy chain. Other than that, the stand was the same as snipers used in the Pacific jungles during the 1940s, Anders told me. I guess you could say that the Japanese invented the modern deer tree stand. Wow, that's crazy. How many of you knew that? And who knows, somebody could have been home making their own portable tree stands at that time too, but as far as I know, from what I read, the Andy stand. That was the original, so unless I'm told different, the Andy stand's going on my Mount Rushmore just for that case alone. Alright, so next on the list, we're going to be talking about one heck of a white-tailed deer hunter. Now this guy's been doing it for a long time, and one of those guys that it looks like just wanted to improve things, design things, and if you follow him on Facebook, you'll see that he hasn't stopped yet. So I'm talking about Andre D'Acquisto, which was the creator of the Lone Wolf tree stands. Now I've been using Lone Wolf tree stands for a long time, and these things are incredible. There's a lot of information out there about the Lone Wolf tree stands and that big history that goes along with it. But I can tell you something that you may not hear. It's something that you can see, and that's if you ever followed any of Andre's videos, you'll see the passion that he has when he talks about tree stands and making them and talking about his older models. It's really something to watch. Now somewhere around 2006, I believe, Lone Wolf Portable Tree Stands was bought by Jared Sliff and Jeff Weaver. And my understanding is Andre still owns the Lone Wolf name. And I gotta say, to my knowledge, I didn't know about the acquisition till maybe a year or two ago, but as far as that tree stand, whether it's the originals or the models that are still out today, they're top of the line, and I think they always will be. And an absolute must for my Mount Rushmore of tree stands. Alright, up next we got a good one for you. Anybody out there know the name Big John Wallner? John was another one of those that started building tree stands in his garage and going way back to the late 1960s. And he created a tree stand that many are still using today, the Summit tree stand. Summit has got to be one of the most comfortable tree stands that's ever been made, no questions about it. They're also a brand that still hasn't stopped and making models today lighter and lighter and still keeping that quality that originally started with Big John in the garage. John was also known for safety, and they say Summit was the very first tree stand company to offer a free safety harness when you purchase their stand. John was also known to be one of the founders of Tree Stand Manufacturers Association, TMA. So that's it. Summit tree stand, another one on the Mount Rushmore. Hopefully I didn't mess any of those up so far. But yeah, there's a lot of information out there with these companies, and you can find out all this stuff if you want. More so, I just want to give out the information of who's on my top 4 for tree stands. Right now we got the Andy stand, the Lone Wolf tree stand, which I've always found to be the most packable and lightest tree stand to carry. Love those stands. And then we also got the Summit tree stand, which I've used for years as well. And the Summit tree stand, man, that thing will put you to sleep. Want to talk about comfortable? Summit's always been right at the top. All right, so we're down to one spot left, and there's a lot of tree stand companies out there that we could pick from, isn't there? And there's some great ones. Gorilla, Millennium, XOP, API, River's Edge, Hawk. Muddy's got some great stands. There's a ton of them. But when it comes to the last one on my Mount Rushmore, I gotta go with this company because they're leading the way with innovation, packability, and considering who's behind it, I'm not surprised. Again, on the list again, Andre D'Acquisto with the Lone Wolf Custom Gear tree stands. These tree stands that Andre came out with and his son Cody, amazing. Now we're talking a premium price here, but it's the way it goes right now with things. Whether it's a Crossbow, tree stand, or whatever. If you're the first to come out with something, you can name your price. And man, do they come out with some nice tree stands. The 1.0, the 0.5. I mean, the tree stand's one thing, but the way the sticks lock onto those stands is impressive. It's definitely the ultimate system. And it seems that they're coming out with new products all the time now, and I'm just waiting on a climber. I can't imagine what that's going to be like if they come out with one of those. Although this tree stand is new, the Lone Wolf Custom Gear, I'm putting them on my Mount Rushmore right from the start. They're that good. So that's it for tree stands. We got the Andy stand, the Lone Wolf, the Summit, and the Lone Wolf Custom Gear. Now, I've never seen a picture of the Andy stand, but I can only imagine what that looked like. I bet there was a lot of people that tried to create their own stands back in the days and probably still doing it. But yeah, hopefully I didn't hack that up too bad. All right, next on the list, we're going to talk about those hunters. And again, not necessarily archery hunters, crossbow hunters, or anything particular, but just hunters. Again, I'm not talking about who had the most this or that, or who was more popular. I'm just talking about who's on my list. And for this one, I'm going to break it down to 2 categories. First off, I'm going to do bear hunting, and then I'm going to talk about my regular Mount Rushmore hunters. So for bear hunting, I'm going to go with, I got to put them on the list, Ralph and Vicky. I'd say that a lot of people would find that hard to argue with. I could just watch Archer's Choice over and over and over. Loved watching them. And talk about longevity. They've been doing it forever, and they're still awesome. Next up, the man himself, from Bear Hunting Magazine, Clay Newcomb. And I can tell you, Clay's the type of person that could read a horrible recipe book and people just would listen and go, that sounds good. That man can talk. And not only that, he knows his bear hunting, and he's one heck of a hunter. Mad respect for Clay. And then next on the list, I got to throw in, from my favorite podcast, Matt Schumann from the Bear Hunting Podcast. Matt's one of those low-key kind of guys, but I can tell you, The influence he's had on people is incredible. I was blessed to have Matt on my podcast some time ago and one of my favorite episodes. I probably learned the most about bear hunting from listening to his show, so you gotta check it out if you haven't. Bear Hunting Podcast. So next and last on the list for bear hunters, gotta throw up Berringer. Bernie's probably one of the most famous bear hunters in the world, and if you want to learn more about bear hunting, you gotta check out Bow Hunting Road. It was pretty awesome watching that and seeing Bernie chasing that bear grand slam and finally getting that blonde. I think the whole world was watching that to see it happen. Turned into an 8-year obsession. Well done, Bernie. And the first to do it with archery. So that's my Mount Rushmore for bear hunters. Ralph and Vicky, Clay Newcomb, Matt Schumann, and Bernie Berringer. Alright, with that being said, let's get into another one. I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting into the history of this, but let's talk about some camo for a minute. Going back to my father's days, well, camo's really changed over the years, hasn't it? Reality is with camo, well, depends where you're from. You may be from Maine or Vermont. In that case, what are you using? Either that red and black checkered or the green one. But yeah, we all know you can get a deer using just about anything out there. As long as you're sitting still, not moving, and hunt that wind, you should be alright, right? And of course, we're still spending millions and millions a year on camo. But let's get into it. Who's on that Mount Rushmore? Number 1, I gotta go with the old faithful Realtree. Man, everybody and their grandma's got some old Realtree camo, don't they? Hats, shirts, coats, gloves, everything. Absolutely legendary. But if we're going to be talking about Realtree, you got to be talking about Mossy Oak too. So let's put Mossy Oak up there. You'll find that Mossy Oak camo in every hunting store around the world, just as much as Realtree, won't you? Definitely on the Mount Rushmore. Okay, so what do we got next here? Realtree, Mossy Oak, and going with Sika gear. And I gotta admit, I absolutely love that camo. Maybe more so some of the earlier patterns, but the new ones are still great too. I just really like that original colors. And with them, we're going to be talking about a very elite price, but you're also talking about quality. And you're not going to find that camo pattern just blasted on every hunting merchandise you can find and consumer overload. But you can be assured that if you see that camo pattern, it's coming with quality. Alright, so here we are, last on the list of camo patterns. I'm going with the famous Kuyu. Another top brand, top quality camo. They've done really well for themselves. It's definitely not your grandfather's camo pattern, but man, do they have some nice products out there. Definitely a big fan of them too. So that's it. That's my Mount Rushmore for camo patterns. I got Realtree, Mossy Oak, Sitka Gear, and Kuyu. Again, these are all in no particular order. They're just my personal opinion. Alright, let's cover another one here real quick. How about hunting magazines? I know, what a odd concept now, right? Who gets hunting magazines? Well, actually, there's still a lot of people that do. And you know what the cool thing about it is? Those old magazines. You could pick up one from 30, 40 years ago and you're going to read pretty much a lot of the same stuff. Certainly times have changed, but the concept, it's still there. No doubt there's a lot more difference in technology today and hunters' equipment. I mean, that could be the biggest understatement of them all. But yeah, if you happen to get your hands on an old magazine, check it out. One thing that you're going to notice is the ads. Well, that's one thing that's definitely increased in that world, but business is business, right? Now, I certainly know there's a lot of old hunting magazines out there. Some of them are still going today. Deer and Deer Hunting, Fur, Fish and Game, Eastman's Hunting Journal, of course, Outdoor Life. Yeah, there's a lot of them. But if I gotta name my top four, my Mount Rushmore magazines, I'm going with Peterson's Bow Hunting, North American Whitetails, Bear Hunting Magazine, and of course, Crossbow Magazine. All great reads and definitely worth the subscriptions. Not everything we gotta read online these days. There's nothing like getting an old hunting magazine and just going cover to cover. A lot of them you can read over and over and you can find something new that you missed before, so give it a try. Check out these magazines. Okay, so I know I skipped from the bear hunting hunters to a few other things, but now we're going to get back into my hunters. This one should take a little bit more time, so all these names came with some great thought, and like I said before, Fred Bear, he's in a class of his own. We're just going to leave him there and keep it that way. But for my Mount Rushmore, my top 4 hunters, that's the question. Am I going old school or am I going with the new wave? Or maybe a little bit of both. We'll see, right? I got to start off by saying, first of all, I know there's a lot of changes going on with the game, and especially with social media these days. And I think a lot of people are aware of things like on Instagram. If you got the perfect capture, the perfect sunrise, that great big deer, you're going to get a lot of likes on there. But I do think there's a big difference between Instagram models and hunters. Not that somebody can't be both. And there's definitely a lot of people that are both. So we got to keep that in mind. Stop the hate and enjoy what we do, right? And that being said, because I could be picking somebody that's got 800 followers on their page and somebody question, how can you choose against this person that's got 22 million? Well, to be honest, I'm not picking who my favorite hunters are off of likes and followers. And like the Crossbow Hunting Podcast motto goes, no apologies. Okay, so here we are, the Mount Rushmore of hunters. Number 1, Chuck Adams. Chuck was known to be the most famous archer in the world. And according to the Star News Online, an article by Mike Marsh, Adams was the first archer to complete the Super Slam by taking all 27 species of North American big game with bow and arrow. His accomplishments also included taking 5 world record bow hunting trophies and numerous species of African game. And is Chuck still out there hunting today? Well, according to Deer and Deer Hunting article, Product Spotlight, Chuck Adams' 200th Poping Young animal falls to FMJ. It says, world's best known bow hunter Chuck Adams opened the fall hunting season in style by taking his 198th, 199th, and 200th Poping Young record class animals with Easton FMJs. Unreal. That's incredible. 200 Poping Young animals. In my book, there just can't be a Mount Rushmore of hunters without Chuck Adams on it. Absolutely a must. Up next on the list is someone I've been admiring for a long time, even though this hunter comes in younger than I am. Now, this hunter's one of those active members on social media and often replies to their fans, which is pretty cool. And the host of Winchester's Deadly Passion. I'm talking about none other than Melissa Bachmann. One of the things that I really admired about Melissa's story is just the way she got started in the outdoor business. If you've ever heard her talk about it or watched anything or a podcast she was on, you might have heard that every bit of where she is today is due to none other than her love and passion for the outdoors and her dedication to live out her dreams. According to her Wikipedia page, it says, after graduating in 2006, Bachmann sent out 76 video resumes without finding work, and then had to take on an unpaid internship with the North American media group, North American Hunter Television. And get this, driving 150 miles round trip each day, and worked as a waitress in a nightclub. 4 months later, she was hired as full-time producer for the show. So what I really like about Melissa's story is she started off working for free. She got in there and she did everything, from filming, editing, hunting, all of it. Now in 2010, Bachmann left to found her own production company named Deadly Passion Productions. And today she stars in, produces, and edits the program. She works around 200 days a year in the field, switching between 2 cameramen. In 2014, the program came out with a clothing line. Bachmann struggles for an answer when asked about her life outside TV programs and hunting. I can't even keep a plan alive. That's how little I'm home, she says. But if you follow her online, you'd see that her family's there with her. And that dog. She's got a little dog that's in all her hunting pictures. It cracks me up. Now make no mistake about it, Melissa's a great hunter too. Not only one of the most hardest workers in the outdoor business today, but she's got some incredible animals. And again, according to her Wikipedia, it says in March of 2012, Bachmann took the world record for a red stag shot by a female archer in a New Zealand hunt. The hunt was aired both on My Take and on Winchester's Deadly Passion. Like I was saying, I've always admired Melissa because I think she is one of the most hardest working hunters in the business. And the way she went about it, well, it's kind of like the American dream. That passion, hard work, effort, it's just remarkable. All right, so we got another one on the list for you, and we're talking about another hard worker. Now this guy, he's another one just like Melissa. If you follow his social media pages, he's probably responded to one of your comments before. Very in touch with his fans and has been at it for a long time. And if you've seen his social media pages, you've probably seen his trophy room. And let me tell you, it's pretty impressive. But I'm talking about Mr. Tom Miranda. Most of you that know Tom know his passion for trapping and bow hunting. Now, according to Tom's Wikipedia page, it says 1983 he published his first magazine article on trapping. 1984 earned private pilot license. 1985 produced first how-to trapping video. And here's the big one for me. 2011 first documented archery super slam of the North American big game on broadcast video. Wow, that's huge. Now keep in mind, I didn't go through every bulletin point on all these companies today and hunters, products. I'm just throwing out a couple things. And again, people that are on my Mount Rushmore. I do encourage you all to go check them out though and read up on all these people and products. But yeah, I gotta say, Tom Miranda's definitely gotta be in my Mount Rushmore. And you gotta check out that trophy room. Man, that polar bear steals the show. Okay, so we're getting down to the end. Who is the last one on my Mount Rushmore? Again, in no particular order, and I certainly can't cover everybody's resume. Believe me, we would be here for hours. They are all incredible. Absolutely amazing hunters. But I got one more to go, and I'm talking about who we know as the mad scientist. Mark Drury from Drury Outdoors. Now, Mark and his brother Terry started up that Drury Outdoors TV show some years ago, and let me tell you, anybody that grew up around that time that was watching hunting videos, they were watching what these guys were putting out. And in DruryOutdoors.com, it says, helping hunters since 1989. They say time flies when you're having fun, and 30 plus years later, a truer statement has not been spoken. In 1989, when brothers Mark and Terry Drury decided to embark on this journey of turning a hobby into a passion and then a passion to a career, even they couldn't have imagined the journey that the Drury Outdoors would take to get where it is today. Mark, a competitive turkey caller, has captured no less than 6 different world titles in his more than 150 wins, according to the Outdoor Channel. Alright, so I got a Field and Stream article here. Mark Drury's October double. Said Drury bucks scored green grossed 180 and 4/8, and then another one 202/8. The article goes on to say, an extended cold front combined with high pressure systems made for such ideal conditions in October that well-known whitetail expert Mark Drury of Drury Outdoors was able to kill 2 of the best bucks of his life on October 16th. Drury connected with great buck his team had named BW for Big and Wide. This was the biggest frame buck I've ever hunted and scored. 180 and 4/8, said Drury. Only 4 days later, he was set up with another huge buck called the Crooked One. This was the largest typical I've ever hunted, he says. After not having much information on the buck for a while, Drury got aggressive and set up on a scrape the buck was using. Amazingly, he showed up and I was able to kill him. The Crooked One was 6.5 years old and scored 202/8. I've never seen hunting this good in October. Well, let's just say Mark's career's been known for a couple of things over the years. One being putting out some of the best hunting videos of all time, and also being a 365-day-a-year land manager and chasing those 200-inch white-tailed bucks. You gotta follow the story about Danger, that 217-inch whitetail. Man, what a deer. And Mark's another one just like the 3 prior hunters. I couldn't cover all their resumes if I tried, but I gotta have them on there. So that's it. That's my Mount Rushmore of hunters. Once again, we got Chuck Adams, Melissa Bachmann, Tom Miranda, and Mark Drury. And now finally we're getting on to crossbows. I know this is a category y'all been waiting for. So what we're going to do about this particular category is I'm not going to be talking about specific model. I'm going to be talking about the company in general. Yes, definitely it would be nice if I'd be able to say that I've tried every company's crossbow out there, but I haven't. I'm just going to be talking about the ones that I've seen make the biggest splash over the years. And again, I have no financial data. I don't know what their sales are. I'm just going on personal opinion. All right, and number 1, again in no particular order, of my Mount Rushmore for crossbows is Excalibur. According to ExcaliburCrossbow.com, ever since we began Excalibur in 1983, it's been our aim to help crossbow hunters to enjoy their sport by providing them the very finest in equipment and service. I've definitely been a fan of Excalibur for a long time. I love the recurve. I love being able to change your string if you need to, not needing to go down to that archery shop, and somehow still able to compete with speeds. That's truly remarkable when you're looking at a recurve crossbow. Then of course you're talking about durability. Watch some of those videos they got. You can't break these crossbows. I know in my crossbow group online, we got somewhere around 7,000 hunters in there, and there's a lot of Excalibur hunters, and there's not really much you can say bad about them. Excellent crossbows, definitely on my Mount Rushmore. Okay, so next on the list, we got the 10-point crossbow. Now it's showing online that 10 points were founded in 1994, and I can tell you from the early days looking at crossbows and then coming to a 10-point, saying to myself, wow, now that's a premium crossbow, and you can tell by looking at it right away. Over the years, I can't say that I've seen any negative reviews about them at all. Just like Excalibur, we're talking about top quality. Excellent crossbows. A must-have on my Mount Rushmore crossbows. Next, who do we got? Raven Crossbows. Coming from ravencrossbows.com, they're saying, working with the industry's most brilliant engineers and drawing from our 20-year track record in archery product development, we literally reinvented the crossbow with the development of helicoil technology. This revolutionary design results in an incredibly efficient, compact, fast, and balanced crossbow with rifle-like downrange accuracy that's never been seen before. In the words of Outdoor Life, Raven is badass. Well, I can't argue with that. Gotta have Raven on that Mount Rushmore. And we got room for one more. As with many success stories, ours started small in 1962 when a man named Bernard Barnett pursued a hobby working with crossbows from his garage in the United Kingdom. Mr. Barnett began filling orders for his acquaintances who were impressed by his handiwork, and the business was born. No kidding, 1962. Did you know that? That's impressive. One of the nice things I like about Barnett's crossbows is they kind of have one in everybody's price range. You got your elite models, but you got an entry level too. But it sounds like they've been doing it for a long time. That's impressive. Well done. All of these companies have come out with some new models this year, and wow, each one of them, amazing. Shooting 2 bolts. Who would have thought that would have ever happened? Then you got the 10-point crossbow technologies. Range, aim, kill. The first crossbow with a built-in range-finding scope. Insane. This is the and they got it on the Vapor RS470. 470 feet per second with a built-in range-finding scope. It does not get much better than that. If it can, I just don't know. That is one slick-looking crossbow. Raven crossbows, what's going on with them? Well, let's just say 500 feet per second. That's what's going on with them. They just broke 500 feet per second for a crossbow this year. I know a lot of us, we just didn't think it was possible, but 500, that's something. Well done, Raven crossbows. And then we're talking about Barnett. New for 2021, the most compact and devastating crossbow in its class has emerged. They say the Hypertact 420. That's one sweet looking crossbow. It really is. You got to check that one out too. From that Excalibur twin strike to the 10-point, the Raven, and the Barnett, there's a lot of choices now. Not to mention, don't sleep on some of those other crossbow companies. I can't even imagine what's coming out for next year. It's going to be awesome. But that's it. That's my Mount Rushmore of crossbows. I got Excalibur, 10-point, Raven, and Barnett. Let me know what you think. Who else would you have up there? But I want to say thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.
This is Carmelo, and you've been listening to the Crossbow Hunting Podcast. No apologies.